the difference between a cluster and a decrease in crochet. To download a guide with our 5 favorite tips to improve your crochet skills right now, visit newstitchaday.com/5crochet-tips. For this tutorial, you'll need the following materials: a crochet hook and a ball of yarn. Special thanks to our sponsor Lion Brand for providing today's yarn. Today we're using their Lion's Pride Woolspun, available exclusively at Michael's Craft Stores, in the color Taupe. When you've been crocheting for a little bit, you're going to encounter both decreases and cluster stitches. And one thing you'll notice is the instructions are relatively similar for both, and it's easy to become confused about their purpose. Well, it's pretty simple. The decrease is meant to reduce stitches from your fabric, while a cluster uses multiple stitches to create texture in your fabric. Generally, they look something like a bobble, sort of like this one right here. The decrease is meant to be invisible, and you can't even really tell, but this is a double crochet 2 together decrease right here. So for the decrease, the stitches are going to look like a triangle. Okay, we can see right here that because they're going from 2 to 1, that we get this triangular portion of fabric. Whereas a cluster is all worked into the same stitch. So even though the instructions are very similar, we're not actually removing any stitches, we're really putting multiple stitches into one stitch. So I'm going to show you how to do each of these techniques really quickly. We're not going to go step by step, but you'll get to see the similarities in the stitches, but also the differences. So this is a decrease. I'm just going to work half of this double crochet. I'm going to stop, and then I'm going to work into the next stitch another double crochet. I'm going to stop here at the top, and I've got 3 loops. So I'm going to yarn over, and I'm going to draw through all loops. Okay. Now the similarity here to the cluster stitch is I'm going to work a double crochet into the next stitch, but I'm going to stop when I do the first half of it. So I've got 2 loops on my hook. So let's do that again, but we're going to go into that same stitch. Yarn over and draw through, then I'm going to draw through 2, and again I'm going to leave this second half unfinished. So now I've got 3 loops on our hook. Now if I were to yarn over and draw through all 3, that would be very similar to our double crochet 2 together, but it wouldn't decrease any stitches because we're just going into one stitch. But this also doesn't make a very good bobble or cluster, so I'm going to yarn over and work another double crochet into that first stitch, and then we will draw through the first 2 loops, and I've got 4 stitches on my hook. Now we could keep going if we wanted to make a bigger bobble or a bigger cluster. We could do 4 or 5. You can even do 7, 9 if you want to try and fit those all into one stitch. But in this case we're just going to do the 3. That's always going to be enough to give you that extra texture like the bobble that we have right here. And the more stitches you have in the cluster, the bigger and more pronounced your texture is going to be. So I'm going to finish this up by yarning over and drawing through all 4 loops on our hook. Okay? And so that's the difference between a decrease stitch and a cluster stitch. Hey! I'm Johnny Vasquez, founder of New Stitch a Day, and your teacher for this tutorial. I want to thank you so much for taking the time to learn from us. If you'd like to see more videos just like this, we produce new content every single day, hence New Stitch a Day. You can click the subscribe button so that you don't miss a single stitch. And if you click one of the links to the side here, you can see the previous stitch in our series or the next stitch in our series. And if you click this link, you'll be able to see one of my favorites. And don't forget, you can also download a PDF with the written instructions for this tutorial by clicking or using the URL link that's on the screen. Again, I want to thank you so much for learning with us, and I hope that we've helped make
your knitting and crochet skills a little bit better today. Yarn on!